Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. An Arkansas mother says she spoke to her daughter's accused killer while they were still out looking for her. Sydney Sutherland's mother calling for justice and the death penalty.
She just was a beautiful person inside and out.
The Minnesota Court of Appeals ruling the trial judge was wrong in refusing to reinstate third-degree murder for one of the ex-cops in the death of George Floyd. Why Derek Chauvin is not yet facing a third charge just days before jury selection is set to begin. Plus, the Tennessee task force who recovered 150 missing children, how investigators were able to track down missing kids across state lines. And the couple who met the donor recipient of their son's heart, the tears, the heartbeats, a courthouse wedding. Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmire along with Terri Austin. The family of a slain Arkansas jogger is speaking out after an accused murderer was deemed competent to stand trial.
Sydney Sutherland's mother and brothers tell me that their lives have changed forever since the loss of their beloved Sydney, and they plan to attend every single day of the trial of her accused killer.
Sydney was just a beautiful, big brown eyes, bright smile, a heart of giving, loving, caring.
Maggie Sutherland says her daughter Sydney had a bright future. At 25 years old, Sydney was working as a nurse in Arkansas.
We had just got back the night before, between 9 and 10. We had been on a family vacation to Florida. So the next day, I had just got up normal routine of unloading and putting away and everything. And about 10:30, she come by the house and she had her workout clothes on, and I said, "Where you been?" She said, "Well, we've been gone all week and I just felt like I need to work out."
Sydney left her family's home to go jogging on August 19, 2020. Later that day, her boyfriend called Maggie, unable to find her or get her on the phone.
He just said, "Something's not right. Sydney's not here."
Sydney's car and belongings were at home, so her family reported her as missing to law enforcement. By nightfall, more than 100 people were out searching for her.
I immediately got on the phone with AT&T trying to locate her phone. That was very difficult because that didn't happen very easily.
Maggie says one man stood out to her, Quake Llewellyn. He was the last to see Sydney out running.
I said, "Can you not tell me anything, like where she was at or anything?" He goes, "No, she was just running." And then he just went and got some food and walked off.
Police brought Llewellyn in for questioning. They say he confessed to hitting Sydney with his truck, putting her in his vehicle, raping her, and then burying her body.
I think they looked at the 360 on his phone and showed he was in a general area, and I think that's how they pinpointed where her body could have been. And ultimately, that's where they found her body at.
Llewellyn is charged with murder, kidnapping, rape, and abuse of a corpse. He's pleaded not guilty. His trial is set for this September. Her family says they plan to be there for every moment.
We're going to sit there and watch, listen, and just wait till we get the justice for Sydney.
We believe, the death penalty would be the best to get the justice for Sydney that we want, We don't want him to be able to sit in prison the rest of his life.
He took my daughter, their sister, our Sassy, our friend, for no reason, brutally did things to her that was just something that we have to live with every day. For him just to be able to sit in jail and breathe and get food and everything, but just one day he just took her life for no reason. It's hard to say that you want someone to have the death, but when they've done that to your baby, it's hard.
Joining us today is former federal prosecutor Gene Rossi. Gene, as a former prosecutor, what did you make of this alleged confession that Llewellyn thought Sydney Sutherland was dead before any sexual acts occurred, maybe beating a top count? I don't know. What do you think?
I'm now a criminal defense attorney after being a prosecutor for almost 30 years. And all I can say is that the defense attorney may have let his guard down. If your client has been accused or could be accused of murder, premeditated rape and killing, you don't have him talk to the police under any circumstances. He has a right against self-incrimination. I don't know what happened, but they had a meeting. The attorney was there. He let his client make incredibly inculpatory admissions and statements to the police. And from my understanding, they can be used against him at trial. There's no protection. There is some protection when you're doing plea negotiations, but here there doesn't seem to be any protection against using his statements against him in the government's case in chief.
Exactly. Now, Terri, powerful interview. When you spoke with Sydney's mother and family there, what was it that you felt she wanted the world to know about her daughter?
Brian, I think they want the world to know that she was a loving daughter, she was a loving sister, she was a loving aunt, she was a nurse, and she cared about people. They even called her Sassy, and the nieces called her Aunt Sassy, and they called her that because she was spoiled as a little girl because she was the only girl in the family. So I think they want the public to remember who she is, and they want to thank the public for doing all that they did to find her. So I think that at the end of the day, they want justice, and they are hoping that they get justice and that, in fact, the death penalty is imposed here. So not to sit in jail for the rest of his life, but to actually make sure that he's punished for this horrible, brutal crime.
Yeah, when you put together, as Jean was saying, that interview with the police and the allegations of running her over, raping her, then burying her body, this is not the case that I think he's going to be spared from the death penalty. It's going to be a tough uphill battle for the defense, but well, of course, we'll keep eyes on this case. Thank you both. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, Amber Geiger's appeal is arguing what she is and is not guilty of in the murder of Botham Jean. But first, the Minnesota Court of Appeals rules against Derek Chauvin in the George Floyd murder case. But what does that mean for the trial? We're back. Right on the heels of the trial of the first ex-cop charged for the death of George Floyd, the Minnesota Court of Appeals rules the trial judge erred. Derek Chauvin is facing charges of second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. Chauvin's defense convinced the trial judge to drop the charge of third-degree murder. Since then, the appeals court upheld the same charge for former Minneapolis cop Mohammed Noor. Noor was convicted in the 2017 shooting of an Australian-American woman who called police to report a possible assault. Now, the appeals court is ruling the judge made a mistake in not reinstating the third-degree murder charge against Chauvin. This doesn't reinstate the charge, but instead sends the argument back to the trial judge for reconsideration. The court says its precedential opinion became binding authority on the day it was filed, ruling against the defense.
I would generally agree that, yes, you could be potentially faced with a situation where a court of appeals issues a precedential opinion, and that opinion does not take effect for 12 plus months, as the court points out. But it also ignores when the state says that there is no harm to a defendant, especially in the context of a criminal case. So you look at the context of a criminal case. Yes, my client would have the right to appeal that decision if Noor were to be overturned, but he would have to do it from the confines of a prison cell. And that is violative of due process.
And it's astonishing to me what my friend just said to Judge Larkin in response. He said, well, the remedy for the state is in other cases just not to charge homicides for a year or longer. Imagine the harm to the public, not just obviously in a case like this with the gravity it has, but in any case, to say prosecutors have to wait a year or more to bring homicide charges, that can't possibly be the law. And indeed, one reason why stare decisis binds trial courts is because of equality. That's something that I think all three of you were getting at in your questions to my friend. Like cases can't be treated unlike.
The family of victims of police brutality and activists came together before the trial to call for reforms.
Before you, what you see is a scroll of names of people who have been killed by law enforcement in the state of Minnesota. 5 of the names on this scroll belong to Derek Chauvin. Listen! The city of Minneapolis failed time and again to hold him accountable. And because they failed to hold him accountable, because they failed to have policies in place that would end his reign of terror, because of these things, they created the conditions that allowed George Floyd to be killed.
Here to discuss the Court of Appeals decision and the upcoming trial of Derek Chauvin is former federal prosecutor Jean Rossi and Terri Austin. Terri, why do you think getting this charge against Chauvin was so important to the prosecution?
Well, Brian, it gives the prosecution another option. Remember, we already have second-degree murder here where he was charged with committing this crime while he was doing third-degree assault. And so we also have a manslaughter charge. And, you know, for that charge, it's really creating negligence and causing an unreasonable risk. But with this third-degree charge and the third-degree murder here, we'll see that they can also prove that he was acting with a depraved mind and without regard to human life, and it's 25 years. So it gives the jury an entirely another option if they don't think that this was, you know, committed while he was doing an assault, or they don't think it was reckless. This is a great option for the prosecution.
Makes sense. Now, Gene, you've been here before in terms of the procedure of this case. The Court of Appeals has sent the decision for murder in the third degree to be reconsidered by the trial judge. So what's next?
Well, it's going to go back to the trial court judge. And if he doesn't add that third degree count, and I agree with Terry, it does change the dynamics of the trial because it increases the chances of conviction. I think if the judge does not add that trial and follow that Noor opinion, then they may go up again on an interlocutory appeal. But I think the trial judge is going to understand that he just got a hand check like in basketball, and he's going to add that third count, and this will greatly enhance the prosecution's case. And I would never disagree with Neil Katyal, who is one of the most brilliant people who ever worked at the Justice Department.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because, of course, if they do add that charge, as I think most people believe is going to happen, Court of Appeals tells the trial judge what to do, they usually do it. What's the defense going to do? They could possibly appeal it themselves, push it back, ask for more time because, hey, there's a whole new charge. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out and when it plays out. But to figure that out, be sure to tune in to the Law and Crime Network for gavel-to-gavel coverage of Chauvin's trial starting March 8th. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, an update on convicted murderer Amber Geiger, the appeal that's raising more than a few eyebrows. Plus, a courthouse wedding unlike any other, the surprise one family received after the break. Welcome back. Some may think a wedding at a courthouse might not be the most heartfelt. But as Law and Crime founder and the host of the A&E series Court Cam, Dan Abrams tells us it was exactly that for one Texas family.
Next, we head to a Montgomery County Justice of the Peace courtroom in Willis, Texas, where friends and family are gathering for the wedding celebration of longtime couple Monica Morrison and Dean Birkenhoff.
As a judge,
joining them are their two children,
therefore, what God joins together,
along with Judge Wayne Mack, who's officiating.
Dean and Monica, today is the beginning of your continuing life together.
It looks just like any ordinary courthouse wedding.
Place that on her finger.
But what the happy couple doesn't know is that their special day is about to take a huge left turn.
Before I pronounce them, is there anybody here that would like to raise an objection?
I would.
Amanda?
I love both of you so very much. And I know the one thing in the world that you both would want so much is to have Colton here.
Colton was Monica and Dean's other son, who suddenly passed away 7 years ago. It was a devastating time for the family, but they found some comfort in donating Colton's organs to those in need.
And I know the one thing in the world that you both would want so much is to have Colton here.
This is 28-year-old Travis Stuffelbeam. He's an organ recipient, and he's alive today because inside his chest,
Colton's not here physically. He's here.
Colton's heart beats on. And this is the first time the couple and Travis have ever come face to face.
Travis wanted to be here because he felt like he needed to be here with you. He brought a stethoscope. And I would like you to have the opportunity.
I'm just borrowing it. And to me, this is where it belongs. And thank you from my family to you guys. Like, we were grateful. And the heart is finally home. Yes.
It's my honor and privilege today to pronounce you man and wife. Dean, you may greet your bride.
I don't think there is any words. It was special to hear them again.
That was absolutely beautiful. Can't say anything more about that. When we come back, Operation Volunteer Strong out of the volunteer state saves dozens of children, the law enforcement mission you don't want to miss. Welcome back. A former Dallas police officer convicted of killing a man in his own home will ask a judge to overturn her 10-year sentence next month. Jesse Weber is here to tell us about the Amber Geiger case on his new show, Prime Crime.
Yeah, hey there, Brian. This is a police shooting really unlike anything else. We're talking about the Amber Geiger case, that former Dallas officer who shot and killed her unarmed neighbor, Botham Jean, inside his very own apartment. Now, why exactly did this happen? Well, we examined the 911 phone call that was placed right after the shooting, the body cam footage as officers raced to the scene, and we hear from the shooter herself.
And I yelled at him. It's like, let me see your hands, let me see your hands. He started coming towards me.
How fast was he coming towards you?
A fast-paced walk. I thought that he was coming at me. Because if I couldn't see his hands, he was going to kill me.
Did you hear anything as he was walking towards you?
There was a loud yell. He was yelling, hey, 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 in an aggressive voice. And that's at that point whenever I shot.
And what Geiger's legal team is up to now may make you think twice about this defendant. Tune in to Law and Crime.
Thanks, Jesse. 150 missing children are now safe thanks to the joint law enforcement mission in Tennessee, Operation Volunteer Strong. Since the fall of 2020, the U.S. Marshals Service has been working alongside the Tennessee Department of Children's Services and Bureau of Investigation. The Joint Task Force identified 240 missing children, then developed leads through intelligence analysis. Agents found 150 of those missing children with ages ranging from 3 to 17 years old.
This child had been missing for 460 days that this child had been missing. And you know, no one may not be charged in this case, but can you imagine being that child and not knowing after 460 days whether somebody was really looking for them or not?
We also made a number of arrests during this operation, including the coincidental apprehension of Tiffany Moore, who was wanted for attempted carjacking in Memphis. Our search was not limited by state lines. Wisconsin law enforcement assisted us in recovering a Brownsville boy in their state, and also a missing girl from Memphis was recovered in Georgia. Additionally, we located a missing girl from Iowa in a motel in Horn Lake, Mississippi, about 18 miles outside of Memphis. There were indications of human trafficking, and that's an ongoing investigation by the Horn Lake Police Department and the FBI. We also found a missing Nebraska girl in a Dyersburg motel. The man she was with, Austin Swatter, he was wanted on a Nebraska warrant for terroristic threats and unlawful use of a firearm to commit a felony. It was our pleasure to help him find his way back to the Cornhusker State.
Here to discuss Operation Volunteer Strong is Gene Rossi and Terri Austin. Gene, the number of how many children were missing is just staggering. How do you coordinate such an operation?
I did that when I was an assistant U.S. attorney. When you have an operation as big as this, Volunteer Strong, you have the United States Marshal, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and probably 4 or 5 other federal and state agencies. And you work as a team, an esprit de corps, and it involves a lot of man and woman power. It is an incredibly thrilling effort, and they had incredible results. but it involves search warrants of cell phone data, emails, homes. But I'm so happy. And he brought up a good point, the first speaker, that there may not be charges, but there are a lot of happy people, mothers, dads, family friends, who are just grateful that those 150 were recovered. Now, don't bear in mind, there are probably about 90 who have not been recovered but identified. And that's a sad thing if they can't find those others.
Absolutely. Now, Terri, rescuing is only half of the battle. What's going to happen to those children that were found?
Well, the objective really is to put them back into their homes as quickly as possible. But in the short term, the state has to do an assessment to make sure that the homes are suitable. And what will happen is that the Tennessee Department of Children's Services will, in the interim, take care of them either in foster care or group homes until they can make sure that they have a home where the children can be sent on a more permanent basis.
Let's hope that this current pandemic or just life in general is not stopping or delaying that process. Jean, Terri, thank you. And thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.